Ready? Yep. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm just taking the chair for the first item on the agenda, which is to reaffirm the position of chair and deputy chair, following last week's town council meeting and the decision to approve the new committee structure and the revised terms of reference. This is necessary. We haven't had any other nominations for the position, and councillors Ian Fradgley and Councillor Dowling are prepared to continue as chair and deputy chair. So just to go through the process, could everybody vote using their green buttons, please, just to confirm their approval. Councillor Curtis.
Sorry, Tony. I've lost my buttons. But,
on participants.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Mayor.
Both Councillor Fradgley and Councillor Dowling are re-elected, and I'll hand over to Councillor Fradgley to continue the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Before we start, could you make sure you're all muted, please? Councillor Curtis. Okay, the item number 2 on the agenda is apologies for absence. Do I have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Dowling.
Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is declarations of interest on items on the agenda, including contact with or communication from applicants, objectors, supporters or agents, pecuniary or non-pecuniary. Do I have any declarations? Councillor Curtis.
Yes, I have had the planning application land rear of 182, 183 Evesham Place. I've had numerous letters and correspondence from objectors, and I have also had a site meeting with one of the residents there. And I've also made my own concerns known to this committee.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Are you proposing to leave the table when that item comes on the agenda?
Yes, quite happy to, but then to speak as representing the ward.
Yeah, yes, well, as ward councillor, you have that right anyway.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. What? Bye.
Sorry, you're ticked. Have you got a declaration of interest? We can't hear you. Oh, sorry. Right.
Apologies, I'd left my tick on from the previous vote. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Right, so I've just got one declaration of interest. Thank you. Item 4, to receive written requests for dispensation for disclosable pecuniary interests. We have none. Item 5, to grant any requests for dispensation. We don't need to. Item 6 is a public participation of non-agenda items on matters under which the council has control of or is in consultative body, subject to a time limit of 15 minutes or 3 minutes per speaker. We have no public. Mr. Fincham, you're coming in your own right as a particular agenda item, which is the next one. Item 7, the old tramway. We have Dr. Anthony Fincham with us, and he's chair of the old tramway revived. Will present the proposal to repurpose the old tramway as a recreational pathway, and you've got some appendices A, B and C. Dr. Fincham, you have 10 minutes to address the council or the committee. You will be put on a timer by the committee clerk, and she will give you a warning 30 seconds when you've got 30 seconds left. Would you like to tell us when you want to start, like now?
Well, it seems convenient to start now, Councillor, yes.
Okay, would you like to start?
Thank you. I don't think I'll be needing all my 10 minutes. So if I could ask, is there anybody who's not had an opportunity to look at the 3 attachments?
Oh, sorry, you're doing a presentation. There'll be questions come at the end.
No, I just wanted to know if people had seen the presentation is the documents I've sent to you. So that is the presentation, the documents I've sent. So if you've seen them, you've seen the presentation. You see. Could I ask the committee to have a look at the documents that I've sent, or do you want me to actually?
I thought you were coming to do a presentation to us, and that's what we're expecting.
Ah, okay. I have sent ahead of time 3 documents which amount to the presentation. The difficulty I've got is I can't sort of show it to you. Thank you very much indeed, whoever's done that for me. That's
Okay.
Okay, so we're probably down to about 7 minutes. Could you take the next slide, please? That's most kind. Okay, the previous one was a better one. So if we can just go back to our plan. Thank you, that's it. We are at the moment, we're a community interest company. I shan't bring up the other document, which is the KIC 36 form, but that outlines the community benefit that we're hoping to achieve. If you're not familiar with the old tramway, there's another document which I used with our MP, Stratford-upon-Avon's MP last week, which outlines the history and the objectives of the community interest company in a shorter form on a single page. The reason I wanted to draw it to your attention is because it's going to involve, if we get the support we need from Warwickshire County Council, it's going to involve about 12 miles of currently unused highway verges and bits of corners of farm fields where the tramway was abandoned in around about 1870. So the point of me really wanting to address you today was to give you this a heads up about this, and so that you have a context for the application when it does come in. I imagine it will be coming from Warwickshire County Council rather than ourselves. We as the community interest company are managing this, if you like, this green set of activities, and we are currently at the moment around the middle of it where it says engage public bodies. So that's you. We have had some very good support from the parish councils to date. We've had good support from Sustrans, who, as I'm sure many of you know, manage the cycle network. We've got backing from a number of different cycling groups, including the Stratford Cycling Forum. And what we're hoping to do is to coordinate all of that enthusiasm, whilst at the same time we push on with what we're doing at the moment, which is the land registry survey, to make sure we know who owns what. Now, the watchword with this is safety, with a secondary idea of leisure and health. It's because the A34 was not a pleasant place to cycle upon. I've lived in Newbold for 26 years and I do it reluctantly, even though I love cycling. So what we'll be hoping to do is to use some of this unused land that used to form part of the tramway and make it into an interesting, but at the same time safe, historical bit of Warwickshire that can carry traffic from, first of all, from Stratford to Shipston on Stour and back, but also we're working with the people in Morton and the people in Oxford and Long Compton to try and make it part of the national cycleways. As you may know, the cycling and walking investment strategy, which is run by Chris Heaton-Harris, the MP for Daventry, he's in the Department of Trade as the Minister for Cycling. They've allocated £2 billion to invest in this kind of thing over the next period. I think it's 20 years. So we will be hoping very much that this will attract their attention, we'll get the support of the people we need to do. And so today, I want to make you aware of this. And I would also very much ask, now that you have my contact details, if anybody would like to liaise with us from this team, if anybody knows of people we should be contacting, I would be so grateful if you can help us extend our network so that we can be as effective as possible. in coordinating this. As I say, it's not something we're planning to do ourselves, but we are planning to package it up such that the people who have both the ownership and the power and the budget can then take it forward. We've had great support from Warwickshire County Council, the leader of. We've got good support from our MP. We've got support from all of the parish councils so far. So perhaps this, as opposed to previous futile attempts, might be the time we actually manage to get this off the ground. That is, I think, all I have to say. The documents that you've got, if you'd like to take a look at, please, yes, continue. This is quite fun. Just to see, on the one side, you have got the 1885 map, which will show you the tramway. And on the right, we've put the latest Google as of last month. So you can follow it quite, it's quite fun to follow it. I've walked it several times during lockdown, and it's all there. You obviously overgrown and brambly, but you'll be surprised to find probably 90% of it is there and unused. And we are aware, of course, that there are going to be some hotspots and difficulties, and we will try and be as flexible as we can to get round those. But it's if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it is quite interesting to look at our location from these two different perspectives over the years. But the other document on there, like I say, is a one-page summary. And there is also the, thank you, whoever's doing this. I'm very grateful indeed. It's good to be working with you. I won't explain to you why I can't get it on here. My work laptop refuses to accept these files without scanning them for viruses. So I've sent it to myself and I'm not allowed to open it. No doubt I'll get it tomorrow, but that's the advantages of working in cybersecurity. So I've finished, really. I've taken up enough of your time, so I'll give you back a couple of minutes if there's any left. There we go. That's one of my favourites. But if we do have any questions, I will gladly answer them now, or of course at any point over an email.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Fincham. Right, councillors, would you like to raise your hand if you want to ask any questions? I've got one so far. Councillor Jenny Fradgley.
Thank you, Chair. That was very interesting, a small sort of overview. I'm a county councillor, and it is something that I'm aware has been in the background for a long, long time. I actually sit on the Cycle Task and Finish group and Cycle Forum at the county. I haven't actually seen a presentation of this, and at county meetings, this hasn't come up as a proposal as yet. Have you actually engaged with?
No, it hasn't.
No. But it seems odd that, have you engaged with Councillor Kate Rolfe? Because part of this tramway actually is in her county division. And it seems it will be quite a wise move to contact both myself and Councillor Rolfe, because when we sit at the table, we don't know the detail of this yet, or how it's kind of coming together. That might be quite useful.
Thank you very much. You are on my list of people to contact. So it's very good to see you today. I'm aware of your personal interest in cycling as well. So I was recommended by the Mayor of Shipston that you should be. I wasn't aware you were on this committee. That's otherwise I would have spoken to you before.
Because this isn't a planning pre-application at the moment. It's floating an idea for planning further down the track.
Yes, I did mention that to the clerk, that I wasn't sure this was the appropriate forum. But as I say, people have been telling me to contact all sorts of people, and I've said yes, please. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you. If I'm wasting.
It's interesting, and we've made some contacts, so perhaps we'll be in touch a bit later down the track.
I hope so. The other person who's recommended you is Izzy Seckham, who I've met up with a couple of times, and so you are very much on the radar, Councillor, and so please expect a contact.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Lee.
Hi there. Yeah, just Dr. Finch. I mean, we're actually aware of another scheme which is looking at a similar kind of project, which is something actually that's on an agenda item for a meeting which we're holding tomorrow. So are you working with any other bodies who are looking to develop similar types of similar types of infrastructure in Warwickshire. I mean, the particular one that we're looking at tomorrow is we'll say more to the western side, and looking at the routes to through Binton towards Broome, I think, where the junction is, and also the link between Ulster and Evesham.
That's right. I'm only aware of two at the moment, one coming down from the north and one coming across the Arrow Green scheme, coming along from Ulster and Evesham to Ulster and on the Greenway. So we are aware of what we are all doing, and we're sharing best practice, although we're the newest, so we're rather learning from the others. I think the idea being that if we can either come up with something that might even be circular, you know, as a route, or to make sure that the start and finish points all line up, I think that would be a very good, you know, it's an essential part of the plan.
Excellent, thank you for your answer.
I should say we finish at the Tramway Bridge. Yeah, so, or the Tramway Pub if you can't go that far, but there's distinctly, with ours, we know where we're finishing, and we know where we're finishing at the other end, which is Shipston Rugby Club. It's some of the more complicated bits where we have to cross the Foss and where we have to cross the A34 that I think are going to prove the challenges.
Does anybody else want to ask a question? No. Could I ask you, Dr. Fincham, have you got any idea how many landowners are going to be involved in this?
Even though we're halfway through the survey, no. However, we are aware that from the northern half, much of it is Highways Agency controlled, it's owned by the council. So we've been very relieved to find that. So I think the complexity will be in the southern bit, which is the bit we're finishing this month. So I'll be able to answer your question at the end of October.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, we are halfway through. I have to say, the person responsible for that is my son for his Duke of Edinburgh silver. So I'm going to whip him into shape. But
right.
he's learning the land registry part of it. So we've been relieved so far to find it's not as many as it could be.
Have you got any idea as to how long it's going to take you to do all this?
We are hoping to have it packaged up, as in we've understood the complexities, we've got recommended routes and sponsorship by the end of next year. So then it'll be able to be handed over to those who can actually active. So obviously what we're just trying to do is to stop it going on someone's to-do list and nobody looking at it for 20 years. Yeah. So we're doing the work voluntarily so that it's much easier then for those that have the authority to roll it forward. So
yeah,
I'm hoping to get that done. There's an interesting, if I can just say, there's a very interesting bit of timing. The original Act of Parliament for this tramway to be built was the 26th of May, 1821. So for me, if I've got my historian's hat on, to be able to get something agreed 200 years after the first Act of Parliament, I think would be quite it would be quite synchronous, but I don't know.
Yes. Councillor Curtis, sorry, Councillor Curtis, do you mute yourself?
Thank you. May I make a comment rather than a question? I've cycled down the A34 several times to Shipston, and yes, it really isn't a nice road to go down. It's horrible. I think this is a fantastic idea. My only comment really was that the more the various cycle groups can work together to demonstrate that this isn't a sort of standalone route, but it's developing a network of cycling across the county that can then be extended. I think that would give greater strength to you, really. And all power to it. I think it's a fantastic scheme.
Thank you, Councillor. I do agree. It's Mr. Heaton Harris has said he wants a national cycle. I mean, I go cycling on holiday, and I have to say, if I'm in France, I don't want to compare us with the French, but it's such a joy. You can go hundreds of miles and largely on the flat. So if you've got children as well, it's magnificent. And, you know, so thank you for your support. And yes.
In France, all drivers are cyclists.
Yes, that's a good point.
Councillor Cleese?
Yes, thank you. Sounds like a fantastic scheme, so looking forward to hearing more about it. Just wonder, have you looked into the accessibility issues, so it's not just cyclists but open to all?
We're calling it a cycle. We're calling it a cycle path. It's clearly got to be multi-purpose. One of the interesting things about that is the cycle path. Sorry, the tramway itself. If you've ever seen it, it's embanked. It's about, I don't know, 10 feet or 3 meters high, and not so wide. I think if we're going to have the choice of being able to make something that's more accessible that runs alongside it, that's going to be preferable than doing something less accessible on the top, if you see what I mean. So there's no question. We are not. It's called the old tramway revived because it's OTR and it's on the road. The major point is a safe, accessible route between two local towns, and it's not. We haven't come across any issues with that yet, but I think you're quite right to make sure that it is. I have to say, I've been. It's the. I think the clerk of this. The clerk of this committee has also said that she's an expert in Accessibility and Equality Act. So I've got a source of advice there already.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Curtis, do you want to ask another question? No. Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Fincham. I think it looks quite an interesting project, and we should be very, very pleased to see how it's progressing and how we can add some input into it. Thank you.
I'll leave you to your business, but it's most encouraging. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, we'll go on to item 8, which is to approve the draft open minutes of the Planning Consultative Committee meeting on the 1st of September. Do I have your agreement to those minutes? If you could have some ticks. Thank you. That's unanimous. The next item is listed as 8.1. There's been a bit of a difficulty with the numbering system because we had to change the agenda at the last minute. So it's 8.1. I could tell you that at the additional chairman's actions, there was no application was deferred. There was a bit of a debate about one or two, but none were deferred. So we've only got one application, which is 20-02305 full, land to the rear of 182 to 183 Evesham Road. You will not see Neil giving this presentation this evening. I'm going to do it because Neil is involved in it from the applicant's viewpoint. So Neil will not be saying anything, but he will be invited later to give any comments in the usual way as that the applicants do. Councillor Curtis, you have opted to leave the table, so to speak, for this item. You can stay with your smiley face, but I'm afraid because you've left the table, you won't be able to ask any questions in the meantime. If you'd like to mute yourself.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right. I am going to do a presentation to you. Just bear in mind that this is the first time I've ever done such a presentation in this way, so you'll have to be gentle with me. I am going to share some photographs, etc., with you to take you through the journey. Okay, so I hope this works. Oops. Right. Can everyone see that? Just okay.
Yep.
The application site lies within a relatively central location within the town boundary and is situated just off Brownlow Drive via a private track known locally as Wheelbarrow Lane. And if you can see it, that is Wheelbarrow there. And this is the location plan. Just let me move you can see Brownlow Drive. So there's a track that goes along there, and this is the location of the site. I'll go on to the next slide. The site itself, there was formerly part of the rear garden of number 182 and 183 Evesham Road, and is surrounded on all sides by residential garden land. As you can see, it's that area there, and there's Brownlow Drive. The next slide, planning permission was recently granted in July 2020 for a large 4-bay garage on site. So that is what is approved for this site. So it's a garage, obviously with 4 garages there. The proposed development now seeks to use the approved building for a 2-bedroom dormer bungalow. So that is being proposed to turn into that. Okay, so you can see it's got things like roof lights in there, and the garages doors have been converted into windows and doors, etc. Okay. Sorry, I wanted 4, yes. The only physical changes from the approved building is an increase in ridge height by 80 centimetres. The building would be set back into the site by a further 6 metres to allow for a passing bay to be created on the site's frontage with Wheelbarrow Lane. And if I go on to item 6, you can see that here is the approved, the garage. And now what's happened is that the, well, it's obviously 80 centimetres taller, and it is, it's pushed back a bit. It's been pushed back a further 6 metres to allow for a passing bay to be created on the site's frontage with Wheelbarrow Lane, and the garage doors will be filled with wooden panels, doors and windows. So those garages there have got the doors, etc. in now. You can see here there's a place here for passing, which has been left, and then they've got the parking. Okay. If you look at this particular, you can see what the proposed floor plans are. That's the ground floor, dining area, kitchen, etc. And then you've got the next floor, which is the bedrooms. Okay. Next one. I would draw your attention to a previous application to erect a 3-bedroom, 2-storey dwelling house on part of the current application site. And you can see that there. But this was refused by the District Council in October 2016 for the following reasons. First, failure to respect the local character. Second, highway safety. And third, excessive distance to carry refuse. And that's a picture of what the 2-storey house looked like which was refused. And you can see it's quite different to, if I click on the right one, no, that one, it's quite different from what is being proposed as a frontage there from that one. Okay. To this particular application, although it was refused by the district, the town council at the time, which is sometime in 2016 by the looks of it, went no reps on it. And the Highway Authority raised no objections. However, the subsequent appeal that was made on this refusal was dismissed in May 2017 on the grounds of the adverse impact of a two-storey house on the character of the area, but not on grounds of highway safety or refuse collections or refuse. So since the appeal decision, the NDP has been adopted and a dwelling at the other end of Wheelbarrow Lane has been allowed on appeal. The main issue with the application is, having regard to the recent planning permission, would the proposed development fail to respect the character of the area? Okay. Have you all absorbed that? Okay, everyone, let me get you back. No, I've lost you. Right. Are there any questions you wish to make on that? I'm just looking. Councillor Dyer? Oh no, that's a tick. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, could I just have a clarification on whether we are in any way constrained by our decision on the previous application in 2016 when we went no reps? Can we now, have we now got a free reign to say whatever we want, or
you have a free you have a free reign to say whatever you want. All I'm suggesting is that you need to bear in mind that it was refused in 2016. The application to put the garages on there earlier on this year did get through on appeal.
right?
Councillor Jenny Fradgley.
Can I just ask, actually, the access road from Brownlow Drive to the garages which have been approved and the potential has, is that made up? And what is the width of that? Is it a single track road? Will it be made up to highway standards, or will it continue to be an unadopted track?
Well, if I take you back to the diagram, there, it's just listed as a private drive.
Oh, thank you. So, yes, that's fine. Thank you.
I gather the one at the other end, which comes off Seymour Road, they're proposing to put, it's the first house in on this track. They're proposing to put tarmac up to the new house that's got permission.
Okay.
Right. Councillor Dyer?
I think this is about 3 foot higher than the previous garages. Will that have any effect on the privacy of other people?
The planning permission for garages, this is going to be 80 centimetres higher.
Yeah, 3 foot. I'm showing my age, I'm sorry, about 3 foot.
Yeah, Okay. I think in planning terms they tend to talk in not in feet
Meters.
but in centimeters and meters.
Okay.
Is that it, Councillor Dyer?
Yeah, I'm concerned that increased heights will affect any neighbouring houses or anything.
I don't know. If you look at this plan,
Yes.
this is going to be here. There's obviously something there which I'm not quite sure what it is. The main house is down back on the Evesham Road down here.
Yeah.
So a house in there with an increase of 80 centimetres, it's got green, it's green land all the way around it. I mean, this is another site here which sometimes comes up for development. So personally, I would say that that is not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
But, you know, okay.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
does anybody else wish to, does nobody else wish to have anything? Okay. Right. The next thing is that we have no objectors and we have no supporters, but we have Neil, who wishes to speak on behalf of the applicants. So Neil, would you like to come to the table? And you'll have 3 minutes, as you are well aware, and tell Joe when you want to start your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Happy to start now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Good evening, councillors. The application site is a plot of residential garden land in a residential area in the centre of the town. It is not countryside and it is not particularly attractive, being generally neglected and a mismatch of buildings and structures situated along the lane. The proposed bungalow is modest and will not adversely affect any local residents. The building itself has planning permission, save for a minor increase in height, so it is hard to see how this proposal would fail to respect local character. The building is significantly lower than the previously refused house, and is therefore significantly less prominent and more in keeping with the single-storey structures you see dotted along the lane. I won't read them out, but I've got some height comparisons between the refused house and the bungalow if you want to know that later on. The main local concern still appears to be the alleged impact on the character of the area experienced by people walking along Wheelbarrow Lane. I must stress Wheelbarrow Lane is a private lane with no public access or right of way, and this has been confirmed by the rights of way officer at the County Council. There is no actual evidence that this modest bungalow, which seeks to reuse an approved building, will actually cause harm to the character of the area. Moreover, the proposed development will not actually be visible from any public views. Irrespective of whether walkers have a legal right to access Wheelbarrow Lane, the development cannot be seen from outside of the local area. The fact that you can see it from the lane is not a reason in itself to refuse the application. The small scale of the development and its setback from the lane will result in minimal impact on the overall character and appearance or experience of those using the lane. The previous appeal decision for a two-storey dwelling house carries limited weight due to the significant physical differences and changes in circumstances. The Highway Authority did not object to a three-bedroom dwelling house on the site, so are unlikely to object to a smaller two-bedroom dormer bungalow on the site. Notwithstanding what the inspector has said in the previous appeal regarding precedent, this is not binding.
30 seconds.
The development will be treated on its own merits, as will any other application. If there were future applications along the lane, then they would have to demonstrate acceptability in all respects, both individually and cumulatively. This is a private track, and the County Highway Authority will have a limitation on the number of houses that can access a private track, and it's 6. Certainly that's not what's before you today. It's a single application for a single bungalow. Much has been said about the nature of the lead up to this application in the comments online. But as you know, this is not a material planning consideration and must be disregarded altogether. You returned a comment of no reps previously on a much larger scheme. Please maintain no reps again this evening, or indeed support the reuse of this highly sustainable and discreet site for a modest residential bungalow and help reduce pressure on the release of more greenfield land on the edge of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to stay at the table, Neil? And I'd like to invite anybody who wants to ask you any questions, so to speak. Councillor Cleve.
I'm interested to hear that it's actually a private with no land with no rights of way, because I do walk down there myself. Do you know who actually has ownership of that land?
Yeah, this good opportunity now that the aerial photograph is on the screen for you to see. Each block of land on either side of the track owns to effectively the centre of the track, so it's co-owned or co-shared in deeds effectively by the people who own the land along the track. So somebody living in Brownlow Drive, for example, or elsewhere in the town, unless they own a piece of land that abuts the track, they don't have a legal right of access. My client obviously has a legal right of access over it because he owns land that fronts the access track. At the moment, it is hard bound. It's actually in very good condition. There are no proposals at this stage to tarmac it, but I'm sure my client would be very happy to do that if that was a requirement of any planning approval. And in terms of the width, it varies between 3 and in some places 4 meters. But it is single track, but it's about 3 meters or so in width, in proximity to the application site.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Neil, you mentioned that the private road could give access for up to 6 properties. Is that right? Is that what you said?
What I was saying was that the County Highway Authority will not allow more than 6 houses to be accessed off of a private drive. So if there was a fear that this would open the floodgates for dozens and dozens of houses, that would simply not happen. I'm not going to suggest to you that another house, for example, next to this plot, would not necessarily come forward. I've no idea who owns it, certainly not part of my client's interests. But this is not going to open the floodgate for dozens and dozens of houses, because highways would simply say no. But it is perfectly acceptable for this particular site to have a house on it in highway terms. And in fact, a much larger house with 3 bedrooms as opposed to 2 was not opposed by the Highway Authority.
Yeah, thank you. Just for clarification, does Wheelbarrow Lane go all the way right down to, I can't remember, what's the road right at the other end?
Yes, Seymour Road.
Yeah.
It starts at Brownlow Drive, and it kind of goes left on this plan, or east effectively, or southeast. Yeah. There's a bit of a kink around the commercial facility, which you can see on that plan, and then it continues down about the same kind of length, if you like, as it is between Brownlow and the it's Cibus, isn't it? The construction company site there.
Right, and there are at the moment there are no other houses on backlands that are accessed from Wheelbarrow Lane. This would be the first.
No, there are others. Sarnia House, which is near Seymour Road, was granted many years ago, and that does read as a continuation of Seymour Road, to be fair. And I was involved in a planning application last year for a plot which was 1 plot removed from Seymour Road. The council actually refused that, again on character and appearance. and I went to appeal, and the inspector agreed with me that the character would not be harmed by, in that case, a two-storey dwelling. And exactly the same approach applies to this in my view. There is also one other house that's, oddly enough, it's accessed off of a cul-de-sac, and I can't remember what the cul-de-sac's called, but it sits on the southern side of Wheelbarrow Lane, and but it's accessed off of the cul-de-sac to the north. So there are three other houses, and obviously commercial site, and a whole variety of other garages and outbuildings along Wheelbarrow Lane. So it's not free from development by any means.
Thank you. Yep.
Does anybody else want to ask Neil any questions? No? Right. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you very much.
Yes. The next speaker we have is the ward member, Councillor Curtis. Councillor Curtis, would you like to come to the table? You've got 3 minutes. If you'd like to let the committee clerk know when you want to start, and she'll give you the usual 30 seconds at the end.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm ready to start.
Thank you.
First of all, I'll just read from the Notice of Decision of Refusal from 2016. The local planning authority has taken into account the National Planning Policy Framework, including paragraphs 186 and 187, which detail the need to work positively with applicants to secure developments that improve the economic, social and environmental concerns of the area. In this instance, it was felt that the proposals were fundamentally flawed to such a degree that no negotiation could have taken place that would have made the plans acceptable to the local authority. And further, I'll just read briefly from the planning inspector's decision previously. These are long, narrow gardens, no dwellings front onto this part of the lane. An introduction of a dwelling midway between a series of linear gardens off narrow tracks appears incongruous. Development is out of keeping with the established pattern of development. The proposal will cause significant harm to the character and appearance of the area, contrary to CS9 and CS15. And most importantly, the inspector stated, concern is raised that the granting of approval for residential development here creates an unwelcome precedent, and that approval will be used in support of similar schemes. Although each application is judged on its merit, it is not a generalized fear of precedent here, but a realistic and specific concern that a number of rear garden plots will be developed were this to be granted, the cumulative effects of which will exacerbate the harm. This is constantly being referred to as a bungalow. It is not a bungalow, it is a two-storey dwelling in effect. And there has been a previous long history of the developer wishing to seek development on this site. And I think, to be honest, it was highly disingenuous to apply for a four-plot garage on this site, when it's quite clear that the intention has always been to develop this as a residential plot. The lane is very narrow. As far as I'm aware, there are no other properties actually front onto this lane itself. I think it's slightly misleading
30 seconds.
to refer to the build at the other end, backing onto Seymour Lane. I would ask the council to refuse permission in this case. As I say, it is not a bungalow, it is a two-storey house, and as Councillor Dyer asked about privacy earlier on, yes, of course, there would be an impact on other neighbouring gardens' privacy. Garages don't tend to have first-storey windows. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Curtis. Right, councillors, does anybody wish to ask Councillor Curtis any questions? Councillor Cleave?
Thank you. Have you had lots of contacts with the neighbouring residents that have issues with this? on both sides of the Wheelbarrow Lane?
I've had one site meeting with a gentleman who lives at the top of the road. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the road. I should know. I run past it every morning. One gentleman who lives at the top there, but I've had numerous emails from the residents opposed to this scheme. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Cleave. Any other questions for Councillor Curtis? Councillor Jenny Fradgley?
Could I just ask, Chair, how many objections are recorded on the planning side?
I do not know how many are on there today. When I looked at this last week, there was one. You still there, Councillor Fradgley?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I should have said thank you. I'll take my hand down. Thank you.
Councillor Lee?
Yeah, it's just really to add comment to Councillor Jenny Fradgley's question. There looks like there's more than one on there, so it looks certainly into double figures. There is some duplication of the names on there as well.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to say anything? No? Okay, thank you, Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Chair.
Right, well, it's time to go into debate.
Ian, can you take the plan down? So we.
There you are.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, who wants to start? Nobody brave? I shall go around the table if I don't get somebody who's brave. Councillor Lee.
Go on then. Yeah, so my view on this is I think much as I can take the point around, I think the way that the applications come about, because I can see why people would be aggrieved at there being lots of applications on here and ultimately leading to the application of a site. What is proposed here is effectively not a million miles away from what has been approved on appeal. So from a planning perspective, I'm struggling to find a reason why I would object to the scheme at this present time.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Jenny Fradgley.
Sadly, I tend to agree with what Councillor Lee has said. I've looked at it quite carefully, and I know that there is a great resistance of local people to actually developing this wheelbarrow lane. It's been tried over a number of years to actually get houses along here. I'm not sure on appeal if we refuse this. I think it will go to appeal. I think it probably will be obtained on appeal. That's not a reason not to refuse. But I'm actually slightly open-minded at the moment, and I'll wait to listen to the rest of the debate.
Thank you, Councillor Fradgley. I've got nobody else who has. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I think my concern is all about the in a way the thin end of the wedge, and once we allow building the back of Evesham Road, and would Wheelbarrow Lane then become a sort of an access road to all those other properties and potential development? And I think I am, well, probably reassured might not be the right word, but I'm going to believe what Neil has said, that actually it's a private road and there's going to be no development of that road to give greater access other than to a small number of properties that are permitted from a private road. So on that basis, that was rather convoluted, but I think it's the house itself I don't really have a problem with, all about the access. And if we are happy that the view is this is a private road that could give access to only up to 6 dwellings, then I'd be inclined to not object and go with no reps.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Cleave.
Thank you. Since Mr. Mayor spoke, I came up with another question that Neil could answer, but I think I'm too late to ask that. During the questions to Neil, we were talking about properties that have already been built on that. So I assume that the number six has already been taken into account. So the fact that there's already, that you said that only 6 can be built on that, that includes the ones that have already been developed. But I'm still not comfortable with it myself. It is a very green area, and obviously from a climate change point of view, we're trying not to build on them. The building itself is much better than that initial planning application. I can see that a lot more thought has been put into it. However, I'm still not inclined to approve it because it just doesn't seem like the right place. Thank you.
You have 3 choices, Councillor Cleave. You can either support it, or object to it, or go no representation. Thank you. All right. Do I have anybody else? Right. I'm now going to go around the table to those who haven't said anything. Then, Councillor Taylor.
Personally, I don't think, as we went no reps on the original one, and they've already got planning permission for the garage, and there's very little difference between the height of this building. I'm tending to think that would be difficult not to object to it, to be quite honest. So I would be tending to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Dyer. Demute yourself, Councillor Dyer.
I don't object.
Ah, that was short and sweet, Councillor Dyer.
I don't object. That's all there is to it. You've answered my question, height. That's it.
Okay. Right. Does anybody want to sell? Anybody else want to say anything on this particular application? Councillor Jenny Fradgley.
Having listened to what people have got to say, I think I would go with no reps that we actually put before. I think that's a reasonable response.
Sorry, Councillor Fradgley, you think, or are you making a proposal?
I'm making a proposal that we should go no reps. Right.
Could I have a seconder for that? Councillor Cleave?
Yeah, I'd go, as that's what we did the last time, although obviously I wasn't on the committee at the time. And also the fact that we did give planning permission for the garage, I would go, the best I could do is no reps. So I'd second Councillor Fradgley.
Okay. Right, so I have got, sorry, Councillor Curtis, you're not part of the debate. I've got a proposal and second to go no reps. So could I have a vote on that from the councillors who are allowed to participate in this particular Councillor Cleave? Right, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to put this in, into the district council tonight. I will get Lisa to do it in the morning, unless Joe knows how to do it. Joe?
I think Lisa will do it in the morning for you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, can we now go to item 8.2?
Yeah, may I just make one fact?
Sorry. No, Councillor Curtis, you're not part of it. I'm afraid you chose to, you went to the table. You don't have any say in the decision-making process?
It was just a correction of a fact.
We don't need it now, thank you, Councillor Curtis. Item 8.2, to note the action by the town clerk after consultation of the chairman's actions on the 30th of September, which was attended by myself and Councillor Taylor, and the additional chairman's actions, which was held on Monday morning, and once again it was myself and Councillor Taylor. Are you all happy with that? Can I have a show of what's its hands? You're back in now, Councillor Curtis. Okay, thank you. That's unanimous. 8.3, there's no street trading and there's no licensing. Item 8.4, notices of decision, which is for information only. I had a look at it and I've got no comments to make on it. If you want to, I trust that you've all had a look and you're happy with those. Right, item 8.5, any other business? There is none. Item 9, Chairman's verbal report. I've only got one item to bring back to tell you, and that is that at the previous meeting we had a debate over a street naming in New Street in Tillington, or off New Street in Tillington, and the committee wanted to know what the relevance of it being called Richard's Place was. And it does have some relevance, and to be honest, I can't remember what it is. But because it had got relevance in Tillington, we then agreed that it would be called Richard's Place. Councillor Fradgley. Did you want? Well, you've got your tick on. Okay.
Legacy tick.
Yes, get rid of your tick. Not me. Item 10, requests for alteration of recommendation, none. Item 11, to request to speak with SDC planning. There is a planning, well, I don't know whether you're aware, but following on from the SDC annual meeting, a couple of weeks ago now, SDC planning have now implemented a new structure for running their planning committees to try and overcome the lengthy virtual 4 to 5 hour meetings which have crept in on the old structure. And I have to say, one of our colleagues, Nigel, was at one of those meetings and he became unwell after one of them. And so, quite right too, they have had a look at the way they're going to do it, and it's changing. And I think it's either the first or the second one is tomorrow evening. Fortunately for us, there are no applications on which concern us on tomorrow evening. On the 21st of October, that's not out yet, but I'll let you know if there's any involvement by us. Okay, now the next one is we need to appoint substitutes for the next Chairman's Actions meeting on the 21st of October and on the 26th of October. Do I have any volunteers? Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. I'm not quite sure what Bill is up. I think he's been in Cyprus or somewhere. Is that right? So the next meeting is scheduled for the 27th of October at 6 o'clock. So I'm closing this meeting at 19:05. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
And I've now got to switch off the live screen, Tubi,
Yeah.
Thank you.
whatever it is.